Hi guys, Mr. Strange here. So we're going to talk real quick just about physical quantities. We're going to be talking a lot about this. All of our experimental designs will rely on this. We'll be looking for physical quantities. And these are pretty simple. They're just measurements or quantities that we can measure. And so what I want to do is I want to take a look at this video of Usain Bolt, the Jamaican sprinter. This is from the 2012 Beijing Olympics. And then we're just going to think about, what are some quantities in this situation that we can measure, and so physical quantities. So, we're not going to try to measure how cool he is or how much I want him to win or anything like that. So physical quantities. So let's take a look, and we'll see two of them right away. I'm going to pause it as soon as they pop up. Boom, right there. So there's one physical quantity. This is a 100-meter race. Below this is a time. So time, that would probably be another quantity that we can measure. So we'll go ahead. If you've never seen him, he's the fastest man in the world. He's right here. Or at least he was. I haven't seen the Olympics yet this year. So there he goes. Look at that little camera right there. Pretty cool. So 100 meters in, 9.8 seconds. So what are the different quantities that we could measure? Well, there were two that we listed that were right here. And these are two of our fundamental physical quantities. So we're going to call them the fundamental. Fundamental versus derived. I'll talk about derived ones in just a little bit. So I'm going to list the quantity and then the unit, the SI unit. SI stands for, it's like Système International. It's French. Or the metric unit is what we call it most often. So one would be this. What is the length of the race? How long was it? So that would be length. And the standard unit for length is going to be the meter. And we just put a little symbol, so we'll just put a little, that's the M. And then we have the time, and time is a fundamental physical quantity. So time, and we measure time in seconds. That's the base unit. We use an S for seconds. Now I know we have kilometers and we have nanoseconds and hours, and there's all kinds of other units, but these are the fundamental. So when we talk about things, we're going to be usually putting them in terms of this. So what else could we measure here? The big one that comes to mind that you're probably thinking of is how fast he goes. And that is a quantity. It's a physical quantity, but it's not a fundamental quantity. It's what we call a derived quantity. So down here, let's write, that'll be our first derived quantity that we'll talk about. Oops, that's the next one. So we have derived units, derived quantities. And derived one would be velocity. And velocity is in meters per second. That would be you see how there's two of them? So we take two fundamental and we can have a derived quantity. So our fundamental one is going to be length, time, not velocity. That wouldn't be a fundamental. But anyway, the other one that we're going to be dealing with is like how much he weighs or his mass. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about the difference between mass and weight when we get into gravity. So his mass, and that's going to be measured in kilograms. Kilograms, which we'll use kg. And then there's one other fundamental that we'll talk about, and that's going to be your electrical current. But that won't be till second semester. So you'll forget about it by then. And they're measured in amperes or amps. And we just use a big A for that. Anyway, these are the ones you need to know. Length, time, mass, and in meters, seconds, and kilograms.